Shalom.
Shalom. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
I'm Brother Don Smith, with Pastor Howard and Brother Anthony. And we're here on the basis of the earth being flat. I believe the earth is round. I've been here 51 years and different theologians. And of today, I want to put in a perspective that the earth is flat. We have Brother Howard, who I'm asking, is the earth flat or round?
Well, according to Proverbs chapter 25 says that it's the glory of Yahuwah to conceal a thing, but it's the heart of kings to search out a matter. Then it talks about the depth of the earth and the height of the heaven. So when you read the scriptures, there's over 112 scriptures that is designated that clearly shows us that the earth is not flat as you're saying it, but it's a geocentric design. Now, here's the issue. Let's start with this here. You can't grasp a portion of your Hebrewism and throw away the rest. We must eat the entire scroll. So when you look at the scriptures, we must not only consider the doctrine of the scriptures, but we also must begin to adopt and to engage what we call Hebrew cosmology. How did Hebrews, our ancestors, what was their view of the cosmic or cosmology, which means the earth itself? What was the design of the earth? Now, we can go through precept after precept after precept after precept after precept. But we know for sure, reading the scriptures support a geocentric design of the earth. So the term Helios, it literally means sun, is where we get the term Apollos. You ever heard of Apollos? It means Lucifer or Satan. The fact that one would subscribe to a doctrine or a theory that suggests that the sun is the center of the universe is sun worship, which is over 40 scriptures that state such, that the earth has on a foundation, is on pillars, is unmovable. However, let's read a precept from Isaiah chapter 40, verse 22. He says, he who sits above the circle of the earth. So we got to begin to look at this term circle. This term circle is the Hebrew term, come from the Hebraic expression chug or chug. Chug or chug, it literally is not a circle, it's not a, it's not a ball, or it's not circle as in a ball we see as a disc or a compass. It's like a compass. And that's the meaning of it. So when you get further into the language itself, you see when it says the circle of the earth, it's not talking about the circle as a ball, it's a flat circle. That's the Hebrew understanding of it. It is chug, which is the Hebraic expression, which means a compass. So a compass, its face, is a flat circle. Right. So the same word for compass in Hebrew is the same one for this term circle, which means it is the chug or chug, which means it is a circle, what we call the flat earth itself. It's not really flat because most people make mockery of that. Oh, we're going to fall off the edges. Now the scriptures vary, and we have time, we can go through precept after precept after precept. So you ever see these snow globes? You remember the snow globes? So according to the scriptures, the earth is fashioned. The earth is designed like a snow globe. We have the earth, which is stationary, and then we are surrounded by water. And the only thing that's keeping us from the water is what we call, Revelation talk about it as well, we can get it as well. It's this molten glass. It is a glass which the scripture talks about it over and over and over. That's why the scripture says we see through a glass darkly. It's talking about the molten glass. Now you see in your head, I need to get that for you. All right, let's get that for you, so that you can. The firmament. That's right. Okay. So that you can understand and see what the scripture says about it.
What you're trying to say, this is what I'm getting. That you're saying the earth is flat, but it's in dimensions of different points. I would say of roundness, or different dimensions of glass. That's what you're saying by the water.
So what I'm saying is we are like in a basosphere, which means we're surrounded by water. Mm-hmm. In fact, the Hebrew term for heaven is shamahim. Mahim means water. So you can't say heaven without saying water. That there's, according to the scriptures, there's water above us, there's water on the side of us, and there's water beneath us. We are surrounded by water. And the only thing that's stopping us, or stopping from this water above us for coming in, is the molten glass, which ironically, the scripture says that the earth is Yahuwah's footstool. So
now you're going back to Genesis with the water, right? Above it. But wasn't that busted with Noah? Was it?
So I'm glad you said. So that's what we call the windows of heaven, or the great deluge. So there is what we call, what many refer to as a window of heaven. Even those in the scientific industry, they often talk about this window or this open space in the heavens. Because you're right, the great deluge, or what we call the great flood, which every civilization ancient civilization have acknowledged that there was a great deluge at some point.
Right,
so not just a Noah story.
It never rained, because
right.
It never rained.
It never rained. So that means it was a downpour. It was because it covered even the mountains. So we're not talking about rain. We're talking about a pouring, a drenching itself. And so that's because part of that glass. Now, if you look in I got some pictures as well. If you look in and throughout the scriptures talk about molten glass, but you'll see a lot of this glass found in the desert. Even now, you'll see it, molten glass. It's a very thick glass, very hard to penetrate. Now, we're just dealing with the scripts here. We ain't dealt with scientific matters. We haven't dealt with any, curvatures, scientific studies on curvatures. We haven't dealt with any of that. We haven't dealt with the fishbowl, Project Fishbowl. We haven't dealt with that, where science know and NASA know that there's a glass, and they've been trying to penetrate that glass. So look at Operation Fishbowl, and you will see that. So it's deception. Whether people want to look at it or not, NASA, the Hebrew term, means deception, or it means to deceive. Reality is they're trying to hide Yahuwah. They're trying to hide what the world know as God. He's not as far as we think he is. The sun is in billions and billions of miles away from us. And so this is all a ploy to hide.
The clock on my phone, computer is stronger than the computers they had in 1968, 69.
Yeah.
So you telling me we don't have the technology is a bunch of foolishness.
To go back to the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You see?
Right.
Okay. I agree to that now. That's why I always say they never went to the moon.
Right, that's
You
correct.
know what I'm saying? I always say that it's a hoax. You know what I'm saying? And I just believe that. Just like when they send like they say the sun is hot, but every time you go up in the atmosphere, it's cold. So the theory he's talking about is like a magnifying glass over the earth or whatever. I can believe that, because once you put the rays from the sun, which is gases that comes through the what did you call that thing you just said? Like
the
a
molten glass, or the firmament.
It comes through. It can get hot, and it heats up.
Thus you get your rainbow, but that's a different story.
Yeah,
I'll show you how you get your rainbow, because you have to reflect from some glass.
Yeah.
And so that's why water above us.
So I believe, it's different things. You know what I'm saying, that what you was just saying to my mind was kind of like making sense. Like, dang, that might go with this. You know what I'm saying? That could go with that.
Right.
But me myself, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, St. Louis. I ain't from there, but I still got to show me. You know what I'm saying? Every man's persuading his own mind, his own heart.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I got to persuade my mind and heart. You know what I'm saying? To believe, that it's flat.
Well, the scripture says in Bereshit, in Genesis, and Yah said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the water, in the midst of the water, and let it divide." Now the firmament is above, right? But let it divide waters from waters. Now we're not talking about the earth.
Right.
We're talking about the firmament.
Right. Exactly.
And it says, "Let the firmament, let it divide waters from waters."
Right.
So again, this firmament, or what we call the dome, is separating the water above from the water below. It's right there in scripture. Or let's see what David said, right? Concerning the scriptures. And here's what David wrote. Even when we talk about the flood and we look at the upper water was drained into the enclosure, kind of filling in enough to cover all the dry land. We talked about that clearly. the scripture gives very details in terms of the enclosure, in terms of 15 cubic, about 20 feet, and it talks about above the highest mountain in Genesis chapter 7, verse 20. It goes on to talk about the depthness of the storehouse of this water in Psalms 33 and 7. So the scripture is lavish, is full of it. We know in 1 Samuel 2 and 8 that talks about for the pillars of the earth, which means the earth is stationary. Job 9 and 6 that talk about which shaken out of the earth, or shaken the earth out of her place, the pillars thereof tremble, which means that the earth is on pillars itself. Let's read, here's another precept, Matthew chapter 5. I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is Yah's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool. So when you read Revelation, Yah's feet is on this molten glass, which is called the firmament. The scripture says the firmament is his footstool. The precept says here that the earth, here's Acts chapter 7, 49. Heaven is my throne, and the earth a footstool of my feet. So on and on and on, we can see, and I can bring out another 10 scriptures that talk about that this molten glass or this sea of glass. That's why the scripture says we see through a glass darkly.
Heliocentric, they can say, oh, the earth is circle. But if you look at it from the top down, if you're looking at a disc or a CD, you look at it from top down, it's like a circle, but it can still be flat.
That's right. That's right. That's why you can go around the earth, so to speak. But however, the scripture justifies four corners of the earth. Yeah. You can't get four corners of the earth with a spherical, globular, orbiting, circling, bouncing ball. You can't get that. So when Hebrews say four corners of the earth, then we are essentially agreeing with a geocentric design of the earth. For those who are scattered, dispersed ones on the four corners of the earth. And we see precept after precept of the scripture talks about the four corners. If it's four corners, you can't get four corners out of a ball. Something got to be flat in order for you to get flat. Four corners. You can get into a lot of information that will undo this conspiratorial rhetoric that many people have. That's why Africa is much bigger than what the globe said it is. When you flatten it out, Africa is large, but it's all a ploy to sell us deception. So the deception, Hasatan, have come to deceive the entire world. What I'm saying is, you cannot believe in the scriptures and believe in the heliocentric design of the earth. It's impossible for you to believe both. Either you're going to believe the scriptures and believe that the earth is as the scripture stated it would be, that it is a geocentric design, or you're going to believe in half of the scriptures in the heliocentric design.
No, you good. You good.
So not only scriptures, but we see it in the Quran, we see it in the Hadith, we see it in the Sunnahs, we see it in every major. We see it in Sanskrit languages. We see it in Confucianism. We see it in Taoism. So this was not just a biblical thing. This was the ancient thought. This was what was passed down from civilization to civilization, their understanding of the earth. It wasn't until the Cold War that now people began to have this race to the space, and which is all a hoax. And that's why when you see the live feed of the earth, really what you're seeing is CGI images, computer generated images, and NASA went on record to say that as well. So and we haven't even get into Enoch and all the other texts that we talk about, the Rig Veda and what the Apocrypha books say, and it's lavish in talking about the earth being geocentrically designed.
All right.
Good teaching. Good teaching.
All right.